You are listening to Plantastic Events podcast, episode number 12. Hey everyone, welcome to Plantastic Events. I'm your host, Noshin Panjani. This is a weekly podcast dedicated to help you plan your events with ease. Be sure to subscribe at stewjap.com and stay up to date. That's stewjap.com. Plus, you'll receive tons of resources, freebies, guides, and show notes. Thank you for joining, and now let's get into this show. Hey everyone, I'm your host, Noshin Panjani, and today our guest is Mike DiLonardo. He is the Director of Operations at Atlanta Beer Festivals. He is in charge of all the Atlanta Beer Festival business operations, festival logistics, corporate partnerships, and marketing. That's very impressive, by the way. They host over 14 events per year throughout Georgia, including Atlanta Winter, Spring, and Summer Beer Fest, Atlanta Brunch Festival, and Wine Festival, too. And I think he mentioned that he also has quite a bit of plans after August as well, so perhaps there will be more events as well. He has approximately 3,000 or more people that attend his festivals, and you have over 150 different beers, not different types of beers, as I said before. My first question to you, first of all, I wanted to let you know that you have an impressive background. I'm truly impressed. I don't even know how you do it because you've been doing this for a long time. And just having that ability and making that change in Georgia, that's actually really cool. But my first question to you is, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Exciting. I know that you had a previous career as a financial advisor, and I just wanted to know just briefly, what inspired you to start a beer, wine, and brunch festivals all throughout Georgia?
Sure. So my festival or event career kind of started when I was a financial advisor.
Oh.
The first thing I did was way back in 2004 was plan a charity event.
Okay.
And didn't know what I was doing, just kind of got into it, and then ended up having a great time. The event went really well. That was able to grow over time. For about 8 or 9 years. It was an event called St. Baldrick's Day. It's gotten bigger, so it may be more recognizable, but the gist of it was raising money for childhood cancer research, and their hook on the event was that you would get people to sign up to have their head shaved, which was a sign of solidarity to kids have cancer, and then raise money. So instead of doing a 5K and raising money, it was get your head shaved and raise money, and then we would have a big party, to shave everyone's head, and everyone just had a great time. And in about 9 years, it kind of kept going after I was out of the financial world, but we raised over $1 million with our event.
Wow.
Which was a lot of fun.
Oh my gosh. And it's unique. That's what I like about it. It's not the standard, like it's a run or this or
exactly.
that.
It's different for sure. And it has a lasting impact past the night because you're bald.
Yeah, it truly means solidarity.
For a couple of weeks or a couple of months for some people.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And knowing that you started up in a whole charitable background, and it kind of navigated through that whole process.
Exactly.
That's
Cool.
Cool.
So it wasn't, I obviously wasn't making any money off the events.
Yeah.
So that really wasn't the motivation. It was more, hey, this was a lot of fun. We got a lot of people together and, just kind of playing the logistics. I started thinking, it was just something that kind of stuck with me. And coming into the beer festival career,
right.
One of the main things I try and do is have our events run as smooth as possible. Like that's what, I'm working on. That's what gets me excited. And so it just kind of started there, where in that little charity event that kind of grew and grew. And it was like, okay, well, how do we go from shaving 10 heads to 30 heads? All right, we got to get the logistics down.
Wow.
Well, now we got to do 3 at a time, and those type of things. And that's kind of translated over into my festival career, in a way.
I'm just thinking about it. I'm like, the logistics behind that must be challenging. You must have like an assembly line style. I'm wondering how you would plan that. I wouldn't even know.
I think after the third year, it was either the third or fourth year, we got lucky and we got this salon just signed up.
Oh, cool.
There was a button on the website that said, hey, if you're a salon, click here if you want to help out. And they ended up being a huge help because they brought down 8, 9, 10, licensed people. So the thing was funny. The event started in one place.
Yeah.
A bunch of rich guys in the insurance world up in New York. They ended up raising a ton of money.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, let's share this. And so the first couple of years, and we were in on this, it was a startup. It was a startup.
Cool, like
Exactly. It was a startup charity,
Yeah.
startup nonprofit. So they kind of found their way. But then in our years, like 3 or 4, they've been doing it a few years before we got into it. They started being more corporate, so to speak, and saying, okay, well, you can't just have anybody shave heads. We got liability, we got insurance. You got to have a licensed barber or hairstylist or whatever the term is. Has to be at your event.
Your neighbor can't just do it.
Exactly. Well, and then so there was still, I think what the rule was, like, so you could have a friend do it, but they had to be supervised by the professional, right?
Okay.
So, and then what would happen was like, people would start a head shaving and then kind of hand it over and say, okay, you finish this up, clean it up.
This is as far as I can get.
Yeah, do the hard part. But we had this salon that came in and they were great. So they really helped with logistics. And I actually still get my haircut there.
Oh, wow.
Now 10 years later since we first met them,
Yeah.
I haven't gotten my haircut anywhere else. So
Can I ask who they are?
yeah, Salon Lotus. They're over near Cumberland Mall.
I've heard of them.
Yeah,
They're
it's
really cool.
It's a good spot. They're right next to Carrabba's, across the street from Chuck E. Cheese. For some landmarks there.
Drop your kids.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
No, but they've been great, and they were really good and helped us kind of grow from that. Yeah, that first year, I think we shaved 12 heads, and so it was easy to do kind of one at a time. With no professional barber on hand.
Wow.
And then I think at our peak we did like 46 heads, maybe something like that. And we got some, as the event kind of grew, the event overall grew, and then our little event grew overall. We got some heavy hitters. We had one guy. He was an executive for GE. So a good friend of mine worked at GE, and so he recruited a couple people. And this guy, I think he raised like $70,000 on his own. Everyone else is kind of like $5,000, $3,000, $2,000. What?
Most people, most type of things, like the average.
I think the most I ever did was like $6,000 or $7,000, something like that. And then we had some people who could really knock it out of the park and lean on, and the corporate guys, they can lean on their kind of corporate giving and all that stuff where people are getting their matches in, and so it was always kind of fun. We'd check back after the event was around St. Patrick's Day.
Ah, nice.
St. Baldrick's Day was the name of it. So
that's hilarious.
It was just a way to kind of tie it in.
It's cute. I like it.
Yeah, it was fun. And then so if you check back, say 2 months later, there'd be more money in there because of corporate matches and people getting their donations after the fact. And that was always just fun.
That's the best part, isn't it?
Yeah.
Then you start getting those corporate partnerships too.
Yeah, well, exactly. Well, so the big organization certainly did.
Ah,
they
cool.
got some big sponsorship dollars over time. So I mean we're into the hundreds of millions in terms of what the overall organization has raised here in 20 years now. It's been.
Wow, very impressive.
Yeah.
So I know that you started off kind of in a different way, all through like the charitable background, and then you transitioned your way to Atlanta Beer Fest and all of the big types of festivals that you now host. Did you start working on building a super team, or how did that work? How did you end up? Because I've seen pictures.
That's a good question.
And you seem very close, and I just want to know like the brief background around that.
Well, so I'll give you the quick transition. So. After the charity event, I had, and was so successful, I had some people ask me to help them with their events.
Right.
And that kind of led, again, not really money involved, but that kind of led to a restaurant in Atlanta asked me and one of my buddies if we wanted to do their Halloween party. Again, this was in 2004. And I'm thinking, I don't know, I'm not a party promoter guy, but okay, let's do it.
Why not? Let's go for it.
So we ended up having a lot of fun with that.
Yeah.
It was in the restaurant, so it wasn't like it was a ton of people, maybe 500, 600 people. Made some walking around money, nothing to think, oh well,
this is a big deal.
I'm gonna quit my job. No, that was not the case. But through that, the owners of that restaurant became clients of mine.
Okay.
From the financial side.
Cool.
And then when I started to decide that I wanted to get out of the financial world. One of my things, or the thing at the time was, I want to get into restaurant ownership. So I went to those guys and said, hey, this is what I'm thinking. Can you help me out? Or maybe at some point we could partner up or
Right.
whatever. So they said, sure. This is 2007. They said, sure. We'll teach you how to run restaurants, but we know you can do marketing and events. So why don't you spend half your time working on that and bringing us money?
Okay, so
by
it's like a
doing events.
balance.
It was
almost.
good because I didn't know
Yeah.
anything about running restaurants, and of
Yeah.
course, so got into that. Really enjoyed the restaurant world for a while. Now that was 2007, so as you know, the economic downturn, nobody was building restaurants for
Right.
like 5 years. So the whole time I was in it, which was 4 years, I ended up going to a couple different restaurants, getting some different experience.
Yeah.
And that was enough for me to say, I don't want to be a restaurant owner, which
I think this is complicated.
it's complicated and it's risky and it's capital intensive. If you want to build out a restaurant, you need $500,000, $1 million at a minimum.
Yeah.
Some of these restaurants that you see, just passing by here, it looked like there was a new Buffalo Wild Wings. They're
always
probably
new.
spending $2 million to build out that store.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have $2 million,
No.
so
Yeah, because to generate space for it, you have to figure out the space, you have to figure out the food, you have to figure out everything else.
all that stuff
costly.
is really tricky, and so actually, what we saw there for about 5-6 years, nobody was opening restaurants. Now, of course, in Atlanta, we've definitely caught up. There's
Yeah.
too many restaurants now in Atlanta, and that's the
Yeah.
other issue. So you could have a good restaurant, and then there's too many, and then you're not. There's a lot of restaurants that are doing great in terms of what their operations are, but they just can't make enough money because not enough.
Competition.
Everything's saturated and the competition's spread out.
And reviews. I mean, lately, technology itself has kind of been I guess, a double-edged sword. To some degree, it can come in handy. To some degree, it can completely destroy you, So it's
I would say most restaurants don't like Yelp. That
Yeah,
would be
I
that would
could
be a
see
fair
that.
statement. There's probably that 1%, 2% that are getting nothing but good reviews, and they're like, yeah, Yelp's great. What are you
Go
guys
for it.
complaining
Yeah,
about?
I know.
And the rest of the 98% are saying, oh man, these Yelp people.
Yeah, because in reality, if you think about it, most of the reviews that you're going to get on there are probably biased, They're probably frustrated or angry about something. They're more likely to post a review before anyone else that was like, I had a pleasant experience, but I'm too lazy to post anything.
Right,
But
right.
someone
Well,
that's angered.
There's a psychology behind that. I
Yeah.
think it might be something along the lines of, we expect to have a good experience. And so when you have a good experience, you go, yeah, that's what was supposed to happen. And so when you have a bad experience, that's like, oh, well, I got to tell somebody.
Yeah.
And by somebody, I mean, type it on Yelp for
I gotta
whoever
tell the
chooses to
world.
read it. Yeah, and we experienced the same thing. Like we had most recently our winter beer fest,
Yeah.
and it rained on us. We still had a
man.
great crowd. We didn't have as big a crowd as we would have, but everyone who came out had a great attitude. We had plenty of covered space, and with access to beer. So if you were worried about getting wet, you could hang out and stay dry, for the
For that remaining
for the
period.
most part. Now, if you wanted to go run and get some food or run and get some certain beers, you might get a little wet. But then there was a lot of people who were just like, well, I'm here. I'm
It's
in the
already
rain.
raining. It's
I'm in the
okay."
rain. There weren't as many umbrellas as I thought. I thought more people would bring umbrellas. There were a couple of people a lot of people brought jackets, right?
Yeah.
There were some people who were just wearing cotton shirts, like, I'm in the rain. It's like,
So be it.
okay.
Yeah.
So, but we didn't get a single review on that event.
Wow.
And
okay.
it went really smooth.
Yeah.
Now, of course, and we haven't been perfect. We've had some mess ups. And then when you have an issue, most recently, this is 2 years ago, we had a security issue at one of our venues where
okay.
it took forever to get everybody in.
Right.
And it was just because they wanted to double and triple check and metal detect and all this stuff that we didn't normally do. But, of course, so people in line going right to Facebook and writing a bad review. They haven't even been into the event yet. They're writing a review saying, I'm in line. This is the worst.
This
blah,
is
blah,
annoying.
blah. And I agree. It was a bad situation, but we're going to get way more, reviews on a bad situation than on a good situation.
Than a
so
good
it's,
situation.
so if you're a restaurant and you're open 365 days a year and you're doing great, you're doing great experience, and then there's that one issue, whatever it may
That
be,
takes you down, yeah.
and then boom, people all of a sudden, reading these bad reviews. So but it's the world we live in. So you got to deal with it. So my goal is no reviews, right? So if we don't get any reviews, that means we're doing great.
It's a plus. It's not
So would I like people to write positive reviews? Of course.
Why not?
But the best goal that I can have at this point,
Yeah.
it seems, is no reviews. Is kind of good news, and then hope that the people come back, say they had a great time. They're going to buy more tickets, and
That's very true.
so that's always what I'm trying to do. on our event, were the lines a little too long? All right, how are we going to fix that?
And word of mouth mostly too. Like, you
Well,
hear it
sure,
through, yeah,
sure.
yeah.
No, that's the thing. People will talk. They might not go to Facebook and write you a review, but they're certainly going to talk. Say, yeah, that event was great. Yeah, it rained, but that wasn't a problem.
Yeah.
And of course, we have no control over the weather. I wish we did.
Yeah.
We would have nothing but sunny events if that was the case. Maybe somebody here at the Technology Center can work on that app. That would be great.
Build some
order
sort
up
of
order up the weather.
cloud-like thing, literally cloud.
I like it.
But yeah, that was actually one of my questions to you. You have a policy, right? Like rain or shine, the festival continues.
Exactly.
So, yeah, it's actually cool. I think personally for me, if it does rain, it's a different type of experience. So I kind of like it. I've attended festivals, even if it's raining or whatever's happening, it's just a different type of experience.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty cool. I think I also wanted to know a little bit about your events that you host, and just you have so many different different beers. I'm going to make that correction. Different beers. How do you find the right brewery, and how do you partner with like those local breweries in Georgia?
So that is what we have been doing is getting more local,
right?
And that's what the crowd has kind of been asking for. When we did our first event in the first Summer Beer Fest was in 2008.
Okay.
Excuse me. In the parking lot at Front Page News. That's where I was working at the time.
Okay.
And so it wasn't huge. I think we had 700 people.
That's pretty good.
And about 40 or 50 different beers. But there weren't that many options. So there were two breweries in Atlanta at the time. It was Sweetwater and Red Brick.
Yeah.
And there was Terrapin over in Athens.
Yeah.
So those were our three locals. So we kind of focused on them. And then we got beer from elsewhere. But overall, in the country, there was about 1,000 breweries at that time, 2008.
Really?
Total.
Really?
Total. Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
I didn't know that.
is that a lot or a little?
That's a lot. I was not expecting that. I just know
okay.
the most common ones,
So
and then beyond that.
So 10 years later, there's over 7,000 breweries.
What?
Yeah. So that's been the difference. Is we went from what we went, with this very limited selection in comparison to now.
Yeah.
To almost unlimited selection. There's so many products we can't get. We can't make room for everybody.
Wow.
And so what we've done over the years is, as local breweries open up, we're sure to get them.
That's
and
nice.
then what ends up being pushed out is some of those national brands that everyone's kind of been there, done that.
Yeah.
So even at our winter event, I think we had probably somewhere between 6 and 10 new breweries that we hadn't had at our fall event, and then by summer there's probably going to be another 6 or 10 that we haven't had that have opened up between, say, January and June.
I love that.
It's a lot of fun. I'm not sure how it's going to go. I'm cautiously optimistic for them because I think we might be in a little bit of a bubble. Same thing with the restaurants.
Right.
When there's too many restaurants. Not everyone has a chance to sell as much product as they probably should.
Yeah.
But what you're seeing too is the big brands are buying up breweries, and so there is a cash out situation for some folks, and some people that's their goal. They say, okay, we're going to start a brewery, and hopefully in 5 years we'll sell.
It's like the startup life too.
It's exactly. But then you have.
But you don't want to get bought out either. You really want to stick with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, unless somebody hits your goal, your number, right?
That's true too. Yeah.
So there's people doing it for different reasons, or people saying, hey, we want to remain small.
Yeah.
This is our passion project, and folks have gotten in. They're also they have other professions, or they've made money elsewhere. Yeah. And they're saying, I want to get in and make beer and have a good time.
That is so cool. And I absolutely love the fact that you give those new local breweries a chance, like an opportunity.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's because many times you see it, and most people are like, okay, I like the big brands, and I'll stick with the big brands, and that's about it. Beyond that, I don't really care about all of the new folks. But then if you give them that opportunity, you're giving them that chance, to actually make it.
I think it's our events are a way to kind of see what's new out there.
Yeah.
Where a brewery that just opened up, they probably haven't made it to too many tap handles around town at different restaurants or bars. And so at our event, you can go around and taste, oh, okay, I haven't had this one before.
Right, this is new.
And that's the thing. And all these breweries now are doing so much experimentation. And where back 10 years ago, you'd have a brewery that had 4 beers. Sweetwater at that time had, I want to say, 4 or 5 beers. That was their core. That's what they made.
Yeah.
And then over the years, they do these seasonals. They try new stuff. They now have their, well, exactly, their passion fruit and all sorts of stuff, right? So, and then you've got their barrel-aged facility and all the stuff they're doing with sours. And so where Sweetwater maybe had 5 beers and then plus some seasonals, they've got more like 10 or 12 beers, year round, and then 20 beers that are limited release or seasonal, and a lot of breweries are doing the same thing, especially with being able to sell more beer out at their tasting rooms for a fuller price. I don't know if the laws changed a little bit.
Yeah.
So they kind of operate more like bars than breweries in that sense. So even with the breweries that we've had before, there's going to be new beers,
right? All the time.
Either from seasonal or from stuff because they're just continually innovating and trying and improving, and so that's been a lot of fun too. I mean, so no 2 beer fests are alike. That's for sure.
That's pretty cool. That's actually
whether it's us or our competitors or whatever.
And like what you said, seasonally themed too, so it's like winter or spring or summer. There are always different types too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the weather kind of plays into sometimes what you want to drink.
Yeah.
What's quote unquote warmer in the winter and more refreshing, and that's the big word, refreshing. In the summer. Yeah. For sure.
So I guess you mentioned something about just generic, like law-related things too. And I know that you have to work with different, because you have an event in different cities. How do you partner with them? I know there's a lot of hassle that you probably have to go through with like licensing information. How does that work? Can you share a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah, it's just a process.
Yeah.
So every municipality has something a little different. So Atlanta's is kind of the most extensive.
Right.
But we've done it so many times. It's just you just got to cross the T's, dot the I's. And go through all the steps and pay all the fees and all the licensing agreements.
Keep up to date with everything.
Exactly. And then we found actually when we go to other cities and we've been to we currently have events in Kennesaw, Ackworth, Lilburn.
Wow.
And Sunset Cove, which is Lake Lanier. So that's not really a city. That's a private enterprise, but it's not Atlanta.
Yeah, you still have to get licensing, I guess, I'm sure.
Well, so for that one, we actually used their facility, so we didn't need to get a license for that one. Okay. But with Kennesaw, Ackworth, and Lilburn, the events are kind of a partnership with the city, which is a little different than Atlanta. Atlanta doesn't really do that, right? Yeah. So it's a little easier process, but you still got to fill out the paperwork, and then get the license, get what's called a local license from the city, and then turn that into the state of Georgia to get your state liquor license, which is what you need to actually place the orders.
To have any of the orders, right. That's a complex process because if you think about it, you have to work with so many different cities, and then on top of it, you have to deal with the state laws as well. So it's challenging. They've got
it figured out. There's so many events now, so it's kind of online automated.
Oh, okay, that's easy.
So there's some efficiencies that are built in, but like today, Carrie, who y'all met with. She's in charge of all our permitting. So I talked to her before heading over here and I said, hey, we need that permit for next week. And she said, I know. I've been emailing them. I said, all right, maybe it's time to just go down there and say, I'm not leaving until you give it to me. Yeah. So there's, so
you have to work.
hopefully it runs smoothly, but then you got to think, okay, on that person's desk, the person who's giving us the liquor permit of the city of Atlanta, she's got to have 100 files at any given time. So we kind of say the squeaky wheel gets the oil. So once if you go down there, okay, well, let me find the file. All right. And then she does it. Mm-hmm. It can only might take 10 minutes, but until you get that file in front of her, you're waiting sometimes.
Yeah.
But no, they've been great. We've always had a great run with the city of Atlanta and the Parks Department, and everyone we work with has really been very helpful, so that's always good.
Yeah, that helps. And I know it's not only about the beer that makes your events so awesome, because I know they're really awesome. Everybody talks about it. Everybody I know of, all my friends and everyone. But what do you do about, I guess, other vendors that you have? How do you work with your event that makes it so special? when it's not only just beer. Like you probably have food vendors for the beer events, and also you have Brunch Festival. I wanted,
Of course,
if you can share a little bit about that
well,
as well.
so for the beer and wine events, we're always going to have food for purchase.
Right.
And get a good diversity of food options. And then we'll have just regular sponsors and vendors that are selling something or promoting something. And it's just a way to interact, and you got a glass of wine or a beer in your hand, and let me go talk about that product, or maybe buy a T-shirt or whatever. It just it gives you some more options, and then of course we always have live music. So we've got live music, and then when it works, we'll either have our favorite DJ Q-Tip is his name.
Q-Tip.
He's really good.
He'll share. Look him up.
yeah. He'll share the stage, so we'll do alternating sets. So it's like live music, then DJ, or when available, we'll put him on his own stage or own tent.
Okay.
Last year at the Summer Beer Fest, and we're going to do this again. The first time we did it was last year. Air conditioned tent. With
air conditioned. Those are real things.
It's a real thing. So I wasn't sure how it was going to work.
Yeah.
Because it was going to be 85, 90 degrees. And I was like, can you really get a tent down? And we got the right amount. And I actually had one of those laser thermometers.
Oh, yeah,
and so
yeah.
I was kind of
the ones
pointing
where they test it out until
Yeah. So we got the tent down to like 65 degrees.
Wow. Oh, my God.
Which was actually kind of chilly. So I think instead we had like these 3 big units. I think we only need 2 because like 65 was actually because when you come in from 95 and it's down to 65, it's like that little shock.
Yeah.
Right? So like 75 is really where you want it to be. But so we had the DJ in there, and so that was like its own little party.
That is actually pretty cool.
It was a lot of fun, yeah.
Do you work with like a lot of local artists, or like because I know you mentioned music events as well. So how does that work?
Well, so for our events, we get what I call party bands. So
okay, cool.
they're playing mostly covers. They might have some originals, but mostly covers, mostly stuff that you can sing along to.
That's always fun.
Kind of reach a broad range, right? So, music events, are becoming more and more niche or targeted.
Yeah.
Aside from, say, Music Midtown kind of hits everybody. You got your pop stars and alt rock and hip hop.
All the famous ones.
Right. So they kind of hit everybody, so they can get a ton of people there. Now, of course, they're spending, $3, $4, $5 million on talent. Of course, we're not doing that,
It's too much.
So my budget's not that big. So I need a band that kind of appeals to everybody in a way, or at least, everyone can kind of get around. Yeah. Now, it might not be your thing, but it's like it's not going to ruin your day.
Right.
Whereas if we had, say, a punk rock band, some people would be really into it, and some people were like,
completely
we got to get out of
into
here.
it.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's just got to kind of hit it right down the middle. Is what we do.
Safe.
And I also know that people are coming for the beer, coming for the party, not necessarily for the bands.
That's true.
So I don't want to break the budget on that area.
Yeah.
I know some events. Every time I hear some events, if we get X X music group, think of how many tickets we can sell. And it doesn't quite work that way, right?
Yeah.
So, our ticket price is around $40, $45,
awesome.
But that includes the beer or the wine. And if you have a band that say costs, I'll just throw out a number, $20,000.
Right.
When they play in Atlanta, they might play at the Variety Playhouse or some 1,000-person venue, and those tickets are going to be $10, $15.
Mm-hmm.
So for me to spend $20,000 on them and then to have their fans pay $40, like the math doesn't work.
Is it worth it? Yeah.
The math doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's not even that it's not worth it. It's just they don't show up.
Yeah.
So I get bands that are good and they're fun.
Yeah.
But they're cheap.
You have to stick with because then otherwise you're just kind of all over the place, and
right.
you kind of want to narrow that focus down.
Yeah, I'll leave the music festival stuff to the music festival people because that's not my world.
Yeah.
I would lose a lot of money if I tried to do that, I think.
Yeah. And, I mean, that's what makes your event so unique. Most people know of it, just beer festival. You have the wine festival. That's cool. Like people like it and recognize it for that. If it starts to turn into something else, you lose your branding almost, too. You lose that value that most people recognize you by. But it's kind of cool. I just want to know, I know that Atlanta Brunch Festival is also gaining some traction. Yeah, people are talking about it. I wanted to know,
thanks for reminding me. So that we have that next, or when this airs, it's this week.
March 10th,
right, March 10th,
yeah.
so Saturday.
We're excited. We're going.
Yeah, absolutely. Something we started. This is the third year.
Yeah.
So it started. I was having a conversation with a friend, and we were doing an earlier time for the beer festival that year. This is now, I guess, 3 years ago when we were talking about this, and he kind of mentioned something about, oh, well, you're going to have breakfast food out there.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know, maybe, we might get a food truck, that's breakfast oriented. And then I literally kind of stopped in my tracks and I said, ooh, what about a breakfast festival or brunch festival?
Who doesn't like brunch?
So we were out that night. I think it was like Labor Day weekend.
Yeah.
I woke up early it was either Sunday or Monday, whatever the holiday was.
Yeah.
And I went right to my computer, went to GoDaddy, got, 5 different donations, Atlanta Brunch Fest, Atlanta Brunch Festival, AtlantaBrunchFestivals.com. So I went ahead and bought them all. That's what I do.
Right.
There is some value to that because you can point them all and there you get extra organic search out of them.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And if someone makes a mistake, you don't want them to be targeted to some completely different site. You want them to go to yours regardless of misspellings.
So and then it just really took off and we found an event that people are really excited about. And the first one sold out early.
Wow.
Last year we moved to a bigger venue, had almost as many people. And then this year we're on track for a similar crowd of 4,000 to 5,000.
Wow.
We in the area of fixing things like from year one, the bar lines were long.
Mm-hmm.
We improved everything last year, and then this year we got more improvements coming.
Yeah.
Just to throw one out, like when you have that many people and they come in all at once, they can hit the bars, and then it's just the bars can never catch up.
That's true.
You try, you just boom, boom, boom. So what we're doing this year is we're going to have a table full of, so with the bottomless drinks ticket or the VIP ticket, you get a reusable cup.
Okay.
That's kind of part of how we're policing the system. But so your option will be, when you come in, we'll have a table full of mimosas.
Okay.
So you can go ahead and pick up a full mimosa, or you can take an empty cup if you want to get a Bloody Mary or a beer or wine.
Go for it on your own.
But we're gonna get thousands of mimosas right into people's hands.
Yeah.
And then that way all those bars don't get hit all
genius.
At once.
You're breaking the crowd down pretty much.
Exactly. And then we've got over 47 restaurants that are bringing brunch samples of different varieties. And that's more restaurants than we had last year. Same thing. The lines were a little long. Okay, well, let's make sure we get more restaurants, spread that out. And so, when folks already have a drink in their hand, and then they're going to go spread out among 47 different restaurants to start getting their brunch samples, it should really smooth it out. And that's, so I'm hoping it works, kind of got to knock on wood or whatever. But we've got some fun stuff coming in. But so like I said, 47 restaurants, all kind of in the brunch world.
Yeah.
We'll have live music. We'll have DJ Q-Tip.
Super cool.
We got the VIP tent, which also has a additional VIP food experience put on by 101 Concepts.
Okay.
We just got that up on the website today with all those details. So it's gonna be a ton of fun.
Yeah, and I like the idea that you are trying to make you are evolving your events. Like if you find out.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's one of the things. When I was in the restaurant business, you're always kind of okay. Well, where are the bottlenecks? What can we fix? And so that experience, I brought over to the event world.
Right. And
so while the events are going on, I'm constantly just looking. Okay, what are the issues? What are the problems? What can we fix? What can we fix now?
Yeah.
What can we fix for next year?
Yeah.
And I think it makes makes a huge difference in
the experience.
And kind of when you're in the restaurant business, you're always like critiquing a restaurant when you go in as a customer.
I feel like you're
right.
You're judging.
And I do the same thing at other events.
I do.
And it always just kind of irks me when I go to an event, say for multiple years, and they keep making the same mistakes.
Yeah.
Come on, somebody make some write some notes down.
Somebody should change it.
So that's one of the big things I'm always working on is okay, how do we make these smoother, better service, better use of our staff, more efficiencies, all the things that you guys do here at the Startup Center.
Yeah, that's where we have the fun, the
Exactly.
fun stuff. But yeah, we were at a conference just recently, and they talked about lines. How to distract people in line so they're not thinking about their bad experience at that moment. Even if the line is short, most people standing in a line don't like it. They're like, I have to stand here for however long, even if it's 15 minutes. They don't like the idea of standing. How can you distract them at the moment? How do you keep them kind of engaged throughout the process? And you mentioned one of the cases you brought in mimosas. They cut out the line.
Well, sure. Yeah. So my goal is always to how do we eliminate the lines?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I haven't actually thought at all about how do we entertain people lines, because then you're almost giving up.
Yeah.
If I were to go into an event and say, hey, we have all this line entertainment.
Yeah.
Well, wait a minute. Why didn't we spend that resource or that time to eliminate these lines?
That's true,
and
too.
So I think I'm going to continue with that policy rather than, hire a bunch of jugglers or something, because then we're giving up,
Right.
So, all right, let me take that budget money, say I was going to spend $1,000 on jugglers. All right, well, let me open up, 3 more stands or
Truly reduce the
recruit,
line.
recruit more restaurants or whatever. So that's more my goal, and make more space. That's one thing from last year. We had this huge event space at Atlantic Station. That's where we're going to be. And, I kind of put the map together, and it was like, okay, well, this should work. And then we had all our vendors, we had room for our vendors to park. And,
Right.
And then when we got into it, it was like, okay, the space was good, but we could use more space. And so I said, all right, next year, all the vendors are parking in the parking garage.
Right.
And so it might cost them $10, but, we got to make this a better experience, and so we're going to just get more room for a similar amount of people, just so you can move around easier, and when there are lines, they're not on top of each other and those type of things, because there are going to be lines. The key is that they're moving and then they're not too long.
Yeah.
I think the perfect thing for, say, a restaurant would be 5 to 6 people in line. That means they're
still moving.
operating at their max efficiency too.
Yeah.
If we get to a point where there's no lines and then the restaurants aren't making food constantly, then that's kind of a bad thing too.
Right.
Now we got too many restaurants.
Now it's the other way.
Now we're like the city of Atlanta. There's too many restaurants and nobody's making any money.
Yeah.
So it is a delicate balance, and hopefully we hit it this year with the 46 that we have, and I think it's going to be a good fit. And then we're certainly improving and making better with our bar lines, and we got more staff, more locations. That mimosa when you walk in,
so
right
cool.
off the bat.
Yeah.
And I'm really looking forward to that and seeing if my plan works out.
Yeah, I like your thought behind that too. You're not band-aiding the problem. You're like working on the foundation. What's the reasoning? Why is it even happening? How to fix the baseline. How do you work with actually trying to make a change on reducing the line instead of distracting them? I like that. That was actually a big point. But I wanted to ask you, I know that you already talked about Atlanta Brunch Festival that's upcoming March 10th. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep.
And the tickets are online on your site.
AtlantaBrunchFestival.com.
Woo, exciting. Do you have any other upcoming events that you would like to share with our listeners?
Sure. So April 14th is the Atlanta Spring Wine Fest.
Oh, cool. Okay.
All of our wine events are on, we've consolidated them onto one site, AtlantaWineFestivals.com. And then we've got Kennesaw's coming up on April 28th. We've got the Atlanta Barbecue Festival that we're co-hosting with the Atlanta Barbecue Club.
Yeah.
That's going to be May 5th and 6th.
Cool.
That's a lot of fun. We are going to have one 21 and up all-inclusive type session on Saturday, May 5th from 12 to 5 called Hogs and Hops.
Okay.
That's a barbecue event that we actually did for 5 years. We took a year off last year to kind of focus on adding some wine events, but then we're bringing it back with the barbecue festival. And then we've got out in Lilburn on May 19th, and then our Summer Beer Fest. So kind of the last event of this season.
Yeah.
So the spring-summer season is June 16th down at historic Fourth Ward Park.
Awesome. And for all you listeners, I know he shared a bunch of different dates and a bunch of different events. I will surely put them on our site as well to share it with everyone else and distribute the message for our listeners as well. So I'm pretty sure they'd be excited. And a lot of our listeners are from Atlanta, Georgia, so that actually helps a lot too. I wanted to ask you, do you have any other resources you would like to share about anything you talked about today or anything you would like to share with our listeners in general?
Resources meaning?
Resources about if you want to share any flyers or any pamphlets or anything that we can actually list on our website or anything.
I think the best thing to do, I mean, the websites are out there. Google can usually find us pretty easily.
Awesome.
But Facebook and Instagram, Atlanta Beer Festivals.
Okay.
And then Atlanta Wine Festivals. So that's after the backslash.
Like the handle for it, or
exactly.
Twitter handle.
Yep.
Okay, gotcha.
So that's where you're going to get updates. You're going to get new event announcements. We're going to, I guess right after June, we'll start announcing all the fall stuff.
Yeah.
Which is coming up.
All the fall-related stuff. It's exciting.
Yeah. So there's going to be, we're going to make a few changes from last year in terms of dates and when things are happening and maybe some locations. But yeah, that'll all come out, and then then we go right into Halloween, and we do a fun Halloween event, and
cool.
then New Year's.
Yeah.
We actually do a New Year's Eve event focused on beer and a New Year's Eve event focused on wine.
Oh,
so
wow.
We got
so
kind of
two
both.
kind of, okay.
Yeah. So, and then boom, we're starting all over again with the winter Wine Fest and Beer Fest in January. So it's just, we don't seem to stop. We take July as our vacation month because it's too hot.
Yeah.
It's too hot to do anything.
You don't want to stand out there, especially in Atlanta. Atlanta heat, not the best.
Yeah. My goal is to get out of Atlanta in July. But so I'm going to do that with a couple of trips. But other than that, we got stuff in August and all through all the way to New Year's, and then we're right back around in 2019. So
right, and who doesn't like beer and wine and all of that good stuff?
Exactly.
It can work all year round.
We got you covered.
Exactly.
And then I always say we always have wine at the beer events and beer at the wine events.
Oh, cool.
So
okay.
If you don't like one or the other, you're covered. Obviously, there's more beer than wine at the beer events, and then the reverse is true. Yeah.
What if you like both? No, I'm just kidding. Then you get both.
Then you get both.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Probably an odd combination, but it would work. But I wanted to tell you that it's been an honor to work with you and have that opportunity. I know you're really, really busy and you have an upcoming event, so it truly means a lot to us that you're able to make time for this podcast.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me. This was fun.
Cool. And then we'll obviously have you again sometime down the road. And we're thinking about down the road to attend one of your events and actually have a live podcast session too. So there are possibilities for future, for future things.
That may be ambitious, but we'll see how that works.
We'll think about it. There are possibilities.
A lot of background noise.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, not quite the studio environment we have here, but
We're not there yet, but you never know. You never know. But I did want to thank you for the time and the time you took out to even coming here and visiting us.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. And thank you, listeners. Goodbye. Although the event industry includes a lot of stressful work and late meetings or late events, just remember that every event you help to bring to life creates memories of a lifetime for many people out there. Did you love this episode of Plantastic Events? We'd love for you to subscribe, rate, and leave a review on iTunes. Each week, we'll give a shout out to the Reviewer of the Week. Also, don't forget, we have resources available at stewjap.com. Thank you for listening, and I hope you'll join us next time. Goodbye. Produced by stewjap.com. Music by Justin Mahar.